Moonbreaker is so good, I'm losing my mind by Bricky. Now, I haven't actually heard of the game Moonbreaker, so I'm actually really interested to see what this game has. I also like Bricky's style. We did do Once Upon a Time. They no longer exist anymore. They've since been deleted due to concerns with Games Workshop legal. But, you know, his Warhammer 40k, all factions explained videos. Very good videos. I'm just a little too scared of Games Workshop legal when they go after BattleTech creators. But that is not going to dissuade me because Bricky does put out some really good content, and I want to see what he has to say in regards to this game.
A lot of you know I'm a huge Mass Effect fan. And whenever I say that, people ask, Bricky, have you seen The Expanse? And I always say, never have myself. Always met with an immediate rebuttal of, how could you have not? Lo and behold, fate invites me with an email to be a part of a major Telltale Games revitalization and Expanse game sponsorship. Telltale, the studio behind the Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us games, Among Us, are back, full stop, and are making an Expanse Telltale game. And this isn't just come record the game. No. It's come join us, enter this crazy airlock, meet the actress who plays Captain Drummer, the main character of the game, and a bunch of stuff from the actual show, real props, all dedicated to the Expanse TV show. And I kind of want to watch the Expanse now. And for the most part, if you're familiar with Telltale Games, you know, the storytelling, the character development, the choices you make, this is right at home. Like, it feels so obviously Telltale. I played about 30 to 45 minutes of the game, and it's exactly how I remembered it. I made like 3 to 4 game-changing decisions in the 30 to 45 minute game time I had. I was picking up all kinds of slang and lingo throughout, like belters, I think it's skinnies. I guess skinnies is a bad word. And yeah, there are a couple things, like as I'm walking around the ship, the animations aren't particularly great. They feel a little stiff, a little stilted there. But honest to God, it makes me care a lot less because one, it was obviously a pre-release build, and two, they're letting me say that in the sponsorship. That means everything to me.
I think that shows integrity that a lot of other companies just don't have, right? It's why, like, I talk about why I don't want to actually, like, pick up, like, sponsorships on reactions, because what happens if, I don't know, insert brand here, right, is, like, you know, they want to, let's say nameless energy drink, right, or mix powder, whatever, tries to get a sponsored bit, right? And, you know, if I were to put that in this video, but Bricky, as we know, is, you know, like, has a sponsorship with GamerSupps. So what happens if I have a competitor on the same video where there's an ad read for GamerSupps? Now, from a legal standpoint, obviously, like, I'm, like, looking at the ad reads, I'm looking at things, right? Like, I have no obligation, I'm not legally, you know, bound in any way, shape, or form, representative, sponsored, etc., right? Like there is that distinction, as there should be. But I feel that it'd be very in poor taste and in very it would just be diametrically opposed, right? To the intent of these videos. So that's why I really don't do sponsorships, if I'm being completely honest. That aside, that just shows a lot of integrity, because if I were to review a game, right? Like, if I were to get sent a key, if I were to have to sign an NDA or whatever, and I was to actually, like, go through and review a game, like, and is that just a license to slag off the product? No. But exactly like he's saying, movement's a little stiff, you know, this is a pre-alpha version of the game, you know, it could get a lot better, right? The fact that he can say that, and they're not trying to, not necessarily control the narrative, right? I guess control the narrative in a sense, right? But to control information where you can only say the positives, right? You can't have any criticisms. You can't say anything perceived as negative, right? That shows a lot of integrity to me.
Really enjoyed my time. It was a great event. The game was interesting, fun. I was impressed with how telltale-y it was, and I think you should genuinely give it a look. You can find it down there in the description on a multitude of platforms: PlayStation, Xbox, Epic Games Store, etc. Episode 1 is out July 27th, with more episodes out every 2 weeks after that. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video, Telltale, and let's talk about Moonbreaker.
For his style, I give it a 9. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what pushes it to a 10. But if that was the whole sponsored bit, I mean, I guess that was a 2-minute sponsorship. And obviously I did pause, so I did add length to it, right? I'd give it a 9. I thought it was good. Okay, so it's a MOBA, miniatures MOBA. Okay.
Let me pitch you a video game. It's a turn-based PvP one-on-one strategy game. In this game, you have a roster. This is a major character called the captain and a bunch of little individual models known as your crew. Now, you load into the game with a little XCOM, a little Hearthstone, and a little Warhammer Mechanicus. As the game goes on, you fight over territories and captains, allowing you to bring in your crew as the game progresses. All of your units have special abilities, buffs, debuffs, special attacks, manipulation, control, and you utilize these in ways to defeat your opponent. Then, when you're done with your game, you can head to the paint gallery and customize each of your models to your heart's content, utilizing all kinds of painting techniques like dry brushing, airbrushing, stippling, washes, and so on, all built within the game's systems.
So this does remind me of, oh God, what is it? It was when, what's the 40K game? The 40K League of Legends, so to speak. I genuinely forgot the name. It's the RTS. I don't remember offhand. It's the third entry. Kind of reminds me of of that a little bit, like the fact that you have like a painting suite, but especially if you can do different techniques like dry brushing and stuff, right? Like the reason that I don't really deal with Warhammer anymore is, like I said, Games Workshop getting really litigious, and even me so much as showing like my models on screen could technically violate their actual like 4 points on their fan content policy. Otherwise, yeah, like once I had enough space, the goal was to be able to go through and actually like paint my Wraith Knights and stuff like that. And learn different styles and stuff. What is it? Games Workshop official site, the is it Brass Scorpion, a Scorpion of like Corn or something like that? How like it's got that stained glass texture and stuff like that. Stuff like that is time intensive, but I mean like stuff like that would be really cool to learn. And the fact that you can do something like this in a game and get different effects and stuff is actually kind of wild to me. I guess you're messing with like textures and stuff, right? But like it's still like an attention to detail that like you don't see, right? Call of Duty, right? Imagine doing this with whatever, like, you know, whatever you're using, right? But no, we're just gonna, you know, AI generate some skins, right? We're just gonna generate some legally distinct VTuber skin. It's a touch that I appreciate.
Newly made models, which you've made your own, are then voiced by some of the top voice talent in video games right now.
Dropping a naughty one.
Need half a second.
It's within my grasp. Who you need gone.
Don't mind the woman behind the big gun.
This game, headed by the developers Unknown Worlds, famously known for their outstanding survival game, Subnautica. And if that wasn't enough, it's topped off by a lore universe written by esteemed author Brandon Sanderson with multiple high-quality audio dramas detailing the captains and universe.
I'm trying to remember if Brandon Sanderson took over Wheel of Time, question mark? I think it was Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, I think he did book 14 specifically because Robert Jordan passed. That is the only kind of understanding I have of the man. I haven't read any of his work.
This game would be called Moonbreaker, and at the time of recording this, it would have had an average 24-hour player count of 15. This is frankly unacceptable. But my opening spiel was not one of those situations where I discuss all the reasons the game should be good. Moonbreaker is good, excellent even. And as an early access game, it puts AAA products to shame with its innovation, character, and deep as the Mariana fucking Trench level of gameplay systems. See, if you're a fan of Warhammer, like many of you are, this game checks so many boxes overall. Not only does it have one of the most robust painting systems I've seen in a video game, but it's painting that can be generally utilized because
so I'm looking at it right now. I just went to Steam charts, and Moonbreaker is sitting as of right now, today as of recording this, is sitting at a 3 players right now, 24-hour peak of 5, all-time peak, which is 3.1 years ago, as of recording this. It's 882 all-time peak. This is super interesting. I'm trying to figure out why. I mean, I guess MOBAs are a competitive market, to be fair, right? You do have League of Legends, you do have Dota, right? Which Valve pushes, much to dismay of TF2 fans who keep waiting for updates. And that's a whole rabbit hole in itself, right? but MOBAs are kind of really, I guess it's just they're kind of hard to break into. This is interesting to me.
Moonbreaker is a small scale Warhammer style kind of game with like the kill team and stuff, with excellent voice acting, animation, and strategy. The game goes like this. It's a sci-fi style world with all kinds of wacky characters that range from nobles and honor-bound guards to raiders and scavengers and then plants.
Sure.
Oh, there's so many plans. Before starting a game, you create a roster. This roster consists of a captain and 10 crew, and there are no restrictions on what crew you want to bring. If you take the swashbuckling, ramshackle Zax Jakar, you can still totally fill his crew with nothing but plant people. And in a sense, at this point, you can just jump into a game. Your captain is dropped down first on one of many rather pretty looking maps, and you get your eye on the current objectives, major ones, and then little cinder piles to the side with some variety in how they're set up. The goal is one of two: either gain victory stars by starting your turn in control of these three objectives, or kill the enemy captain. But to do so, you'll need some Cinder. Cinder represents action points. Gathering these allow your captain and crew to use abilities, and you get more Cinder each round, along with more and more points to summon new crew. And crews scale in power, so simple, cheap crew can be dropped earlier, while more expensive, powerful crew come later. From there,
So this tells me that this is something along the lines of Naruto CCG's turn marker system, or probably more relevant to the conversation, Hearthstone's like, you know, you get more mana per turn system.
the objective is simple.
Mana,
get enough
unquote.
victory points or kill the enemy captain. Both are completely valid options and have their own school of play. How you do so depends on the game plan you've set up with your team and how you want to react to the enemy. Because most crew have between 6 to 12 health for the most part, some outliers here or there, but the captain is 25. So killing the captain is an exercise in attrition. Maybe it's better that you camp the objectives and win by points, but the enemy can stop your objective by just standing on it. You can have 5 people on it and they can have 1, and that's all they need to contest. And that's where things get wild. Oh boy, there are so many fucking strategies in this game. I feel like I'm going insane.
I feel like this is what I wanted 40K to be, because I never actually was able to sit down and play it because too much to build, places that play. That I have such a weird schedule that it always conflicted, right? So I never actually got to play, right? And the one time I was actually going to have a game, the dude ended up having to say, yeah, I have to actually unfortunately scoop, which was unfortunate, right? And as I understand it, there's a lot of modularity and stuff, but I think it's because I look too much into the metagame category, right? Like, to me, I'm trying to figure out, depending on, it obviously depends on what you bring, but I feel that there are going to just be better than, if not best, teams to bring in this game, especially if ganking captain is going to win the game, right? So would it have been possible to Zerg rush the captain and just, death by 1,000 cuts, right? Emrakul may be a 15-15 Eldrazi, but something 15 flying squirrels, right? Same concept. I think that, well, because, I know, you have different movements and stuff, but I feel that especially going into 10th, because this is obviously taking place, 2 years after the original video, right? This reaction. Them condensing Psychic Phase is one of the things that people around me have disagreed with, and I actually disagree with as well, because I'm sure there could be counterplay in terms of mechanics, right? In terms of Psychic Phase kind of needed to get consolidated into Shoot Phase for XYZ reason. I think that it makes the game way too homogenized. I think that it's kind of spits in the face of what the game was. Don't get me wrong, I heard oval-based turning is awful. Stuff like that getting streamlined, that's fine. That's ease of access. If you have to break out the protractor and the actual pad for math, probably a mechanic you should probably address, right? But at least going into 10th, it does feel very homogenized in terms of mechanics. And don't get me wrong, as someone who really wanted to play Eldari, Strings of Fate was pretty OP to the point they had to nerf it a couple times. Now they have the thing that they have in 10th, which makes it a little more fair, and that's why Wraith Knights went down in price in terms of point buy. I don't know, I'm trying to think how this would compare to other miniatures games, and because this sounds like, so far, Bricky says this has a lot of variety. My concern is it could have too much variety, kind of like Pokemon to a degree. Like, obviously, there are certain things, especially when you get certain legendaries and even Ubers involved, where it can become a tier 0 format. What's the current tier 0? I'm trying to think. Well, tier 0, quote unquote. We literally had this posted in the Discord the other day because we were talking about this. But it's something like it's just best options, right? Best options to just play. Which is just kind of wild, and that's what worries me about this game. Are there going to be too many options? And having too many options can be fine. It can be daunting for new players, but having too many options can still default to, here it is. Yeah, the VGC team is quite literally Calyrex Ice Rider, Calyrex Shadow Rider, Miraidon, Zamazenta, and whatever the giraffe is, the Raikou Giraffe, Roaring Thunder, I think. And then throw an Arceus on there. Grats. That's Reg J for VGC, quote unquote. Yeah, a lot of people are not happy about that. It's because like when a format becomes consolidated like that, when there are just best options, that's a problem. That's why we get into buffs and nerf, why we get into restrictions, why we had different regulations, right? Regulations without Paradox Pokemon, regulations without legendaries. Most literally all formats are without, like, you know, mythical/event Pokemon, right? I think that gets I think I'm getting a little ahead of myself though, because that gets into game balance. This is the equivalent of telling me, "Hi Kip, have you heard of this game?" And like, "No, I haven't heard of this game." Well, you see, it's an FPS game, and I'm already trying to be like, okay, but like, I mean, are we going to be, you know, what about shotgun spread, damage fall off, rate of fire between SMGs and LMGs? You know, is there going to be, you know, especially for like Battlefield, right? How what is it, long range rifle rounds? They have to kind of like get up to speed, so to speak. Like, I'm speculating about things that are way beyond the current talking point, and I think that's a lot of the problems looking into games is like I'll have the premise and I'll try to problem solve while I do this, which is not a general way people go about it.
The game, oh, it's simple, right? But then you get to the units. Oh no, the ceiling is infinite. Let's say we get my boy Maximus.
I'm missing a massage for this.
He's a super cheap cost, and he hits for only 1 damage at range, but he's got rapid fire, allowing him to pop, 2-tap. But hitting an enemy refreshes his move. So he pops out, blasts you, and dips away. Good harassment, and that mobility can make him really good at taking objectives. Pop him out, shoot you, and get even closer. Ooh, let's get slightly more expensive. Beatrice.
Ready for swift action.
Is a 2-cost large melee unit. She's slow, but she's got armor, which reduces all damage she takes by 1. And her melee is a long spear line, allowing her to hit enemies behind her main target.
So I think it's interesting to consider because I think it was in a Josh Strife Hayes video. I don't remember what video it was. It was about Baldur's Gate 1 specifically. And because I've never gone through it. It's been a long-standing thing because I had my father used to run through it. Never actually ran through it in full. I definitely want to see the whole Saravok plotline go to an end, and just experience the world. So the problem I run into is how mitigations and defense work, because in games like Baldur's Gate 1, like the video I was watching was saying, tanking is kind of rough, if not suboptimal, because you are just expected to take damage, even with increased mitigations, even if you have your tower shield and your plate, right? You are still going to take damage. So if I remember, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think the correct way to play it is to spec into damage, to try to dish out more damage than you will receive, try to end fights more quickly, if I understand that correctly. From a metagame perspective, obviously. But then again, you have other games where, like, I mean, you'll have mitigations and they just can't touch you. So I think there's a good middle ground. Like, you want to like have that variance of play, right? If a player is choosing to forego armor, generally, yeah, you will make them faster, right? They're going to take more damage if they get hit, but they're playing dodge build from Payday. If they're going to be an 800-pound gorilla, yeah, they're intending to take damage, but you need to be able to do something that is You're going to be able to take damage, but you're also going to be able to tank that and dish it back out, right? And I think Payday 2 specifically is an interesting example of this, because last I tried, anything like 4 skull and above, just I think I can still get away with 800-pound gorilla status on like 4 skull. But if I'm going 6, I don't remember what the names are offhand, I apologize. If I'm going 6 skull, I have to be running something like anarchist or dodge build, right? I feel that taking damage is just suboptimal because of how hard stuff hits. But then again, I also haven't played Payday 2 in a hot minute. It's one of those I stream every now and again. But it's one of those that I have not done most of the higher difficulties for a specific reason, right? I do like to, in any game I usually pick up a tank, so I generally get a feel for if mitigations do work or not. Like, Final Fantasy 14, I tank. Lord of the Rings Online, I tank. Guild Wars 2, going into that, I will be tanking. Going into World of Warcraft eventually, because hearing about Deathwing raids and stuff like that, and hearing how some of the raiding experience is actually kind of cool, like, sure, I'll be tanking that. I probably will be Paladin, probably going to go away from the Death Knight aesthetic, but I mean, I don't know. Like, I tank in games. I like being able to take damage and draw aggro. So it just depends how the system handles mitigations, because it's kind of a tricky balancing act. I don't think quite as stream as shotguns in games, because shotguns are either worthless or they're absolutely OP. There's really no in between. And that's where you get into, like, Tia 2 has variable spread. Most games have kind of damage fall off. That way you're not sniping with shotguns, right? Old Modern Warfare 2 back in the day, did put out a patch to nerf the model 1887s because people were sniping with them akimbo. A lot of interesting isms there.
Now, Arya, my beloved,
Let's get it on from a distance.
is a sniper character. Moonbreaker has range. The farther you are, the harder it is to hit people. This is represented by a percentage to hit that gets smaller with range, or
Okay.
through other things like units and cover. But Arya has a big-ass gun, and she's kind of a loner.
Please don't make me mingle.
So she has a 2 cinder cost ability to give her 75% more accuracy so long as she doesn't move or take damage. That 3 damage shot is really gonna hit. Oh, and she also has ambush, a keyword that lets her be deployed anywhere
Literally deep strikes.
and not just near your captain. Oh, and don't think we're stopping anytime soon.
I feel like this is Bricky's Inner Custody coming out.
It's time for Dome. The Aegis Defense Dome, also known as motherfucking Dome, is an AoE that reduces all damage every one of your crew takes in it by 1, allowing you to have some infuriating turtle compositions. But
I almost wonder if something like that could be balanced by all damage reduced by 1 to a minimum of 1, right? Like, you would still take damage. That could be, depending on the game and the format, could be a valid way to balance that.
oh no. He's behind me, isn't he? It's him.
Limzard.
The Destroyer of Galaxies. Tipu. The Destroyer of Galaxies is a 4-cost, 3-damage melee crew with 12 health. But every single time Tipu attacks, Tipu gains a permanent +1 damage and +1 health. Tipu can become a problem. Oh,
yeah.
And how could we ever forget the 7-cost Florio Lancer, a gigantic artillery barrage from across the goddamn screen? Now, young chap, you might be thinking to yourself already, you said Beatrice has armor, which reduces damage by 1, and motherfucking Dome reduces damage by 1. Does it stack? Why, yes, it does. Did you know when you attack an enemy and they are within melee range of you, once you're done, they will strike you back as retaliation? Remember when I said Tipu gained a permanent attack and health every time it attacks? Every time? You want to know why Tipu is the Destroyer of Galaxies? Hey, look. It's Drum Dancer Tali. She is.
So I actually really do like when abilities stack and the system does allow for a lot of interplay. And maybe this is playing Destiny for a hot minute. So in ways, Destiny is justified in not letting certain things stack. And also certain things overriding each other, especially because Well of Radiance is someone who used to camp that before I said, no, I'm playing Nova now. Well of Radiance became a problem in design because encounters were designed to effectively have Well of Radiance in certain aspects. And at the very least, you could have someone on your team camp it and just live forever, right? Especially with really advanced players. I think that stacking buffs is a good thing. I know it can lead to jank in systems, and that's why we don't have a tractor cannon stacking with a divination, right? That kind of thing. Like, it defaults to whatever the higher debuff is specifically, but you can only have like specific things active at once. And that's kind of where you have to read in like the fine lines. The game doesn't actually explain this to you, right? You don't go into tractor cannon or divination and it tells you this does not stack with X, Y, and Z, right? It's just it's not just intuitive knowledge, but it's also like metagame knowledge. Like you have to like, I think read like a twit, whatever they call it, and then you have to like understand that or hear it from the community, right? Like who finds out with like patch notes or something, right? I like when systems do allow for that, like, what if I cross this buff with this buff or this action with this buff, right? I very much like that systems allow for that. It can lead to degenerative game states if things get too out of control. But like I said, that's where you get into like a balancing point of reduces damage to 1 to a minimum of 1, right? So if you take 30 damage, just throwing a number out there, right? Sorry, let me backtrack that. So if you still take damage, right? Like, you know, if you have if it reduces damage from all sources by 1, you have 30 units attacking you, each of them do, 2 damage. Instead of 60 damage, you're taking like 30 damage, right? But if you had 2 of them stacking on each other, 60 damage would suddenly become 0. But like then, reduce to a minimum of 1 if you have issues with actual mitigations. If that becomes like a tier 0, just turtle strat, right? Like there's no countering it. That's when you start introducing things like that. Or obviously you have a new wave of crew releasing who maybe get kind of like deep strike mechanics, right? So I could see a lot of interplay, and I feel that especially with a system as modular as this, like you could have a steady release of like new crews and units and like introduce new mechanics to the game. Obviously then at that point, is this a paid DLC? Is it not a paid DLC? Is it a free drop? If that's a free drop, what's their business model? How do they stay afloat, right? There's a number of situations that arise here when you talk about something like this, because let's say, I don't know, you got a crew that could just deep strike, reduce all damage by 1, right? Effectively. Like, but it's locked behind a paywall, especially if that's a very good unit, you could argue that's pay to win. So there is a balancing act there.
It's an ability to give a unit pummel, which allows it to strike twice. Oh, look, I'm running Astra. She's my captain. I can spend Cinder for Into the Breach, which allows me to refresh a unit's attacks, move, and abilities. Oh, right. Drum Dancer Tali's ability is pummel for the whole turn. What the Tipu doing? Oh, nothing. Just dismantling society as we know it. Much like my fancy exterior skin I made myself. Society exterior. I should not be let near a paintbrush. Ironically, Tipu, destroyer of galaxies, can't do that anymore with the Astra refreshing the range thing, but still, it's pretty ridiculous, right? They realized it was too strong, so. Yeah. But this isn't even the beginning of the—
And that's the thing, is like, especially if the dev team is clearly receptive to like, yeah, this is a little overkill, right? They just tweak things.
Shit you can do. Chuck and Co. is a really solid unit. Good health, armor, just functionally pretty nice. Chuck and Co. can also, fling enemies in the direction he's facing. The Chuck, doing 1 damage and generally being pretty good displacing people. See, I found out though a while ago that Chuck can fling anything, be it ally, enemy, or even item. See, Zax is a captain known for his ranged manipulation. His gun knocks back enemies, and he has a black hole portal to suck people in, and he can drop a mine. Now, this mine takes a full turn to arm, but when it's armed, once it is touched, it will explode for 3 damage in an area. Now, what if I said Chuck doesn't need to be in base-to-base contact to fling something? Who's to say I haven't delivered a mine towards an enemy once or twice? Who's to say I haven't flung my own Tipu, destroyer of galaxies, towards the enemy, which doesn't count as movement, mind you, and then Tipu has closed the distance and rendered buttholes sundered. Arya, my beloved, is a great ranged character, as we have mentioned, but what if you had Deadeye? Deadeye can give a unit 40% increased accuracy for 2 turns. And what if Taria, Arsenal, who gives the unit rapid fire to double shoot, happened to be by her? And just, what if someone like Amplifier Bitol was around, giving Arya extra damage? Could that mean I could feasibly do 8 damage to whatever I wanted at any target in the open? Perhaps. Oh, and Taria and Deadeye have guns too, Furia is a high-cost unit. Big beefy. Every turn you don't shoot her, she gains 3 damage and takes 1 damage. This stacks, as long as you'd like it to. But I'm running Zuna, who can put a buff on a crew member to regen 3 HP to them every single turn.
Becomes
so I can just
negligible.
sit in the back, charge Fury up, over and over and over again until her next shot will one-shot the enemy captain. All I need to do is, you know, keep her safe. That's fine.
I mean, good players would be reactive to that, right? Like they would be able to. I'm assuming you can read the tooltips and stuff like that, right? Thus, you'd be able to hover over and be like, "Why is he in the back? Oh, that's why you're in the back, right?" And adjust your game plan accordingly. I'm actually surprised that made it in, because especially Japanese music gets very, well, you know, Japan copyright laws are different, right? Fair use doesn't exactly exist, right? They get very picky on that, so I'm actually really surprised that got kept in.
We have Tipu, destroyer of galaxies. I can be here like forever, man. You know what? Maybe I shouldn't stop. Here's some more. Hidden Run is a melee version of Maximus, where she strikes for a whopping 4 damage and then can move again. But why not make her an assassin?
Let me see what you have. Annoying.
No! Get Drum Dancer on her, double attack, and then use Gardener Captain to nest an area with increased movement, giving her 9 speed for the movement. One of the fastest units in the whole game, and have her run up, deal 8 damage to some poor son of a bitch, and run away.
You're just the Pepe Punch meme.
Repeat. Flurry is about as calm as, well, you know, most chefs.
This is all your fault!
And does 3 damage to everything in an area after taking damage. It's taking damage from anyone. So the damage he takes from a retaliation melee, the damage he takes from AoE, perhaps the damage he takes from you. Gaslight him, girl boss him, gatekeep him, and smack your own unit to watch him kill every one of theirs.
It's really funny, actually.
No,
I like that.
It's a continuous loop. Oh, what's that? You don't have enough AoE stuff to hit him with? Oh, well, lucky you. You have Arms Dealer Yuki, which gives all nearby allies a 1-use grenade, mine, or flamethrower. It doesn't stop. It genuinely doesn't stop. Every single time I discover new concepts, new builds, I craft ridiculous shit. And what's insane is that, sure, I mean, some of the stuff I've told you about sounds OP, and sure, some enemies get buffs and nerfs here, but let me tell you that there's a counter to all of it. Pacifier O'Teal? Yeah, I'm still going. He's a pacifier.
So I would say that I think this works best in a kill team style, like small squad setting, right? I think the modularity here and the level of play works very like it works better. Very best, goddamn. Works better in a small setting, right? Can you imagine, say, I don't know, like a 2,000 point army and doing this? I feel that gets really chaotic and that would get very stale really quick. But I think that especially having it's kind of quality over quantity, right? Like, sure, you're playing a 2K point game with like custodies versus like knights, right? Rather than like, I don't know, orcs versus tyranids, right? Because that's just gonna take all day, right? You might need to have to go for lunch on that one. But yeah, like it feels like you're fighting with quality, right? And like, a lot of them are very simplistic in terms of effect. I think this is very much a keep it simple, stupid, which is I'm saying from a praise standpoint, where, yeah, the thing does the thing. RTFC, just read the card, bro. Like, just read the thing. What does the thing do? Oh, the thing does this. The thing interacts with this. Okay, cool. No, it makes sense to me. And then you're just able to, you're able to mix and match that. But I think keeping the team sizes small allows for the game to not go absolutely foobarred, right? So, like, let's say you're playing, I don't know, like a 2K point game, right? And let's say you have like 30 Eldari on board, right? Or you have however many orcs that is, right? However many orcs that translates to. And like, imagine like every single unit had like a thing of like, you know, increase to hit or increase damage or decrease damage, right? Like, obviously, yeah, you'll have big units like, I don't know, like Thousand Suns says Magnus, right? Oh, I hate Magnus. Like I'll have Magnus, right? And like having effects. Imagine having like a bunch of like I don't know, like chaos sorcerers or something around him who like just give him mitigations to damage now, right? But now you have like literal teams, like so you can squad up on them. So I'm assuming what, like 10 Rubik Marines maybe in a single squad. I don't know what the numbers are offhand. But now you have, because you have 10 in a unit versus 5 in a unit, yes, it's an increased point cost, but like now you have a double the mitigation, or like 1.5 the mitigation, depending how you want to balance it, to Magnus. I don't know. Like, it's interesting. I think about trying to scale this up, and I don't think scaling up works, and I think that just goes really foobar really quick. Like, let's just triple the amount of units here, right? Can you imagine the shenanigans that would be with triple the units? Even double, I'd say, right? Like, because, reduce damage by 1, and suddenly you have, 2 or 3 times the unit, so now nobody's doing damage. But yes, everybody's also doing damage, but I also think that it becomes kind of a, like, you run into this weird inflation issue where numbers feel inflated. So I think keeping it small is honestly best for something like this. I do think that's a W.
So their ability is... return any crew back to the bridge. I mean, of course, the enemy can summon them back, but the turn you summon something, they're stunned with summoning sickness and can't do anything. So imagine spending all that power on Tipu just to have him yeet all the way back to the ship. Or how about Torian, who gives himself and the closest ally 50% harder to hit on the accuracy table. And then you play Zuna, who can create an obscuring bubble, making it even more reduced. So you're in melee range with these fools, and you might not even hit them. Savria Safeguard. She can make the next time a unit takes damage reduced to 0.
I think so. Tipu is kind of the concept of the Winged Dragon of Ra from Yu-Gi-Oh, right? Or anything with variable power and toughness from Magic, right? How, like, if you, like, Flashpoint at Flicker Wisp... Did I actually unironically just say Flashpoint? That's Naruto. That's the Naruto CCG. Wow. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Whatever Flicker Wisp does, I forget what it's called, where you bounce it out. It exiles and comes back, right? Because it's inherently tied to the unit. So if its effect is negated, so like Winged Dragon Ra, if its effect is negated, right, and its effect is no longer negated, it'll be 0/0, regardless of what it was before, because the effect is negated, and it doesn't retain that through the negation, right? If you have a 15/15 creature, the creature gets exiled. Let's say you have a 0/0 creature or 1/1 creature in Magic, and that gets exiled, and then it comes. Sequencing, Kip. I swear, I'm so sorry. You have a 1/1 creature that becomes a 15/15 via like tokens or something like that, right? Or just because other creature says target creature becomes 15/15, right? Like, but then that gets exiled and then comes back into play. Like, it gets flicker whisked out. When it comes back in, it's not 15/15. It's a 1/1. It is a new instance of that card specifically. So, like, and that's the thing, is like, I'm sure that there's something that could just negate effects. So something like that just gets Tipu, right? Tipu is very much Winged Dragon of Ra status. Sure, it gets big, it gets bulky, it, kind of destroys worlds. But there are ways to out it reasonably, and that just goes down to, does this have protection from effects? No, clearly, okay, cool. We're just going to make sure just to, like, send him back to bridge, come back down. Lamau, where'd all your power go, my guy?
Damage, 5 million damage, it's 0. Fate Twister Tantan.
Okay.
Make it so the next time an enemy attacks, it will always miss, or one of your allies, and it will always hit. For every crazy combo, there is a crazier one that can stop it, or force your opponent to do something else. It is a game of mind-bending customization, where every single match is followed up with, oh man, what if I put X with Y and use Z? That would be insane. The strategy volume of it makes it an absolute mainstay for this kind of genre. I played StarCraft 2 on stream a bit ago, and I was so impressed at how terrible I was. I want to make this very clear, chat. I want to make this extremely clear. Shut the fuck up. It was an insane level of skill and strategy needed to be good at that game. Though it felt so good to play a game that needed high-level strategy again.
This is actually why I play games. Like this, yeah, don't get me wrong, TF2 can be frustrating sometimes, and especially when, like, the lobby is super try-hard, I'll, like, tunnel vision and, like, engineer status. Like, just go full engineer status, right? I'm building buildings. I'm making sure to try to build things optimally, right? Like, come out of spawn, drop entrance teleporter, maybe drop turret or dispenser, depending on situation, go back for scrap, rinse, repeat, right? Like, I try my best to, like linear it, but that's the thing is, like, when we talk about games being made simpler, this was my big issue with Silksong, when, like, people were like, this game needs to be easier. And, like, I haven't played it. Like, I have an ongoing thing for, like, Hollow Knight 1 over on the gaming channel. Because I just have a weekly thing where I go through the first game before I get into Silksong. And it's like, bro, like just play the game, Fivehead. And I think I also just come to the understanding that like certain games just aren't for me. Like, so Metal Gear Solid Delta, right? You could tell there were certain parts that frustrated me. The lab where you had to get into the basement, and then the one where you had to put the C2 on the funny generators or whatever towards the end, near the Shagohod, right? But it's like, I'm also trying to brute force this in a way that an FPS player would, which arguably is a suboptimal way to play Metal Gear. Because sneak, box, I actually never found out how to use the box, if I'm being completely honest. But point being, like, it's okay if a game isn't made for you. It's also okay if the game, like, just has a skill floor and a skill ceiling. And I think that's what really turns people off from a lot of really good experiences, right? And that's the thing, is like, if I say something like Metal Gear Solid Delta, you know, despite having it my own personal subjective issues with it, right? I mean, it's like, honestly, for the time period, it's between a 9 and a 10, probably leaning on 10 if I'm being honest, right? Yeah, it's I don't know. I think that there's a big cognitive disconnect between people who want to play games, but then like they also complain that games aren't approachable, and like, there's also the other side of it where, well, we need to make every game just super hard. And I feel this is the trap that Destiny 2 found themselves in, because they ended up catering to the top 1% and nerfed a lot of things. And, you know, whether they backtrack that or not, it did scare a lot of people off, because, you know, they'll come back and they do, oh God, whatever the new Atrax dungeon was. I literally ran it like once. New, quote unquote, whatever the Atrax dungeon was from Final Shape, and like they do it. They're like, yeah, no, this should not take 4 to 5 phases for running a decent setup. It should be reasonably 2 or 3 phases. The one phase, yeah, pretty reasonable that they move away from things like that. But it just became a test of patience and stuff, and like just feeding into the gameplay loop. Go get more loot, Fivehead, right? Any event, I don't know. It's interesting to see something like this, and I agree with him. What he says, I'm in full agreement with. Right? If I play an RTS, like if I played Battle for Middle Earth on stream or on the gaming channel, which I might, I'm gonna be awful. Like, you have to understand, I am awful at RTS games. I'm awful at like strategy games, but that's also fine. I acknowledge that. Yeah, I'm pretty awful, Fivehead, right? And I can still enjoy the game for what it is. People who can, you know, actually big brain stealth, right, and do some, you know, funny shenanigans in Metal Gear Solid 3 or Delta, right? Like, yeah, they're able to figure out how to trank his stupid parrot and walk up behind him and get the stealth kill, right? Me, I mean, I was, or use the funny, the funny device that allows you to hear directional sound, right? The directional mic, in order to locate him. I brute force found that man. Like, I was tanking shots when he popped out of the grass constantly. That was a fight. And that's just different players, and it's celebrating what the game does, even if you're not having a good time or having issues with it. Like, and obviously there are criticisms and valid criticisms, but like, I think people have lost being able to celebrate things and having gratitude for certain things. But I also think that's also kind of the gaming industry's fault in a lot of ways, especially the AAA and quadruple A, when they push minimum viable products and kind of hate their audience, if that makes sense. I don't know. This is a deep conversation that I could literally go on for like 20 minutes about. So I'm going to stop there and we can continue the actual video.
Exact same feeling from Moonbreaker. I need to think, deliberate, be intelligent. That's quite difficult. And being a good tactician will win you games more than a team or percentage to hit chance ever will. And this is just the gameplay. Everything else about this game is excellent too. Like, as you've been hearing lately, the voice acting work is amazing.
The art of surprise.
Sounds good.
Ready yourself for doom.
In fact, it was a shame I couldn't find the individual voice lines for the characters on YouTube. So I reached out to the community manager, and the devs gave me the actual sound files so I could use them in this video.
Okay.
And the voice acting talent they have is insanity. You might be able to recognize a ton on the voice alone. Zax is our beloved Matt Mercer. That's an easy one.
I hate littering, but if you ignore it, maybe it'll go away. Ugh, it's glistening.
But Beatrice is voiced by Carla Tassara, who voices Judy in Cyberpunk. And can I just say, when I got the folder of voice lines for this video, I didn't realize how many are in it. I was listening to them and cracking myself up because they weren't just good, they were kind of funny. Like, Beatrice is an enforcer, but her joke is that her armor is really fucking heavy, so...
I won't yield. Nice and far. Let me at them. Bravery requires teensy breaks. They'll break. The wings were a bad choice. This is getting silly.
Then
I love that. I absolutely love everything about that. It's one of those that you like. I feel people definitely have issues with, like in the moment, like wow. But then you like think about it for 2 seconds, and he's right. Yeah, heavy armor, 5-head. Have you worn armor? I have. Armor is heavy, especially when mine is steel. Right? People use aluminum because it's like half the weight, right? And you don't really sacrifice durability. I've worn steel. I own steel. Steel is heavy.
Arya, my beloved, is the loner sniper, right? Voiced by Christina Milizia. She has this super dorky, adorable attitude in all her stuff.
I see them. Hope they don't see me. That's close enough. Gonna curl up with a book on the ship.
Glad we invited you, Arya.
I could hide in the corner. I'm okay. Avert your eyes. I wonder what would happen if I ate some cinder.
And she played Annie, Amumu, and Nunu in League back in 2009. Greg Chun plays Entios, a low-cost character who's all about punching.
Let us punch. Who says you cannot punch down? The fist that feeds, clenched and ready. You can unlearn. You can't unpunch.
League of Legends players, as if they aren't debilitated enough, are probably reeling from hearing Master Yi in another title. And then there's
I hear that was Bricky a WoW streamer or a League streamer back in the day? I don't remember. I don't actually know the origin story of Bricky. This is a conversation we had recently in regards to how people get their startups, right?
Broken Vengeance. And I mean, come on. You know who this is.
Vengeance here. Fine. Payback with a side of soiled shorts. If someone changed these settings, I'm gonna change their settings.
Oh, and side note, as if I could call an OST a side note, all the music in the background of these voice lines is from the game. The game has a bopping soundtrack that has absolutely zero right to go this hard.
Yeah.
The entire audio department have killed it here. Between the attacking sounds, voice lines, and soundtrack, the whole thing is top level, one after the other. Though I think it's not just audio, but like rather the games feel as a whole. You know, I've harped on art direction before, but I must say that Moonbreaker in its own right has a feeling that I haven't gotten in a game of its type. The lore and universe is written by Brandon Sanderson, which many of you will no doubt be familiar with. I and myself am not too familiar with it.
Same. I mean, honestly, and that's the thing, right? Is like, what do you call? This is one of those things where, like, I haven't seen a lot of very popular movies, right? I haven't seen Scarface. I haven't seen Full Metal Jacket. I haven't seen a lot of classic stuff, right? And it's like, we all have a different experience. And it's one of those things where, like, I know it's not malicious, right? It's not malicious when people say, what do you mean you haven't read Brandon Sanderson's work? What do you mean you haven't read, or sorry, you haven't watched, Full Metal Jacket and stuff like that, right? Part of it, and part of it's just a time thing for people, right? Like, I imagine Bricky, especially nowadays, is an incredibly busy individual, right? Collabs, business, partnerships, making videos constantly. I mean, even just doing what I do. I mean, I'm kept busy constantly between recording, uploading, trying to do gaming channel as well, because even though it's just, Let's Play VOD status, because it's like I physically need to do something more than just be a derivative of other people's works. But I get the sentiment. I think I understand the sentiment, but it's really interesting to see it crop up.
But if this is the kind of stuff he makes, I think I might need to check it out a bit more. Like, it has this sci-fi swashbuckling multicultural feel to it. It's extremely colorful and cheery. The characters all have distinct personalities that tells you what they're about, but also like kind of a playful attitude. I think we can all agree that Marvel humor has gotten a bit out of hand, but it's less out of hand when the material it's in is supposed to be laid back and overly silly. Moonbreaker is really laid back. I mean, it isn't Stalker. You saw this in the voice lines plenty. It's silly and fun and enjoyable overall, and everyone has a shtick. It even translates to their movement. Like, originally, I heard criticism that the units themselves don't have animations. They don't move as they are just static tabletop board pieces. But
because they're tabletop pieces. What? That's like if I complained about like Games Workshop pieces out the box using funny Games Workshop glue, not being able to move arms or swap weapons, and that's where people, you know, will do magnets and stuff, especially with Wraith Knights and that and stuff, which I need to do in the next one for WYSIWYG, right? What you see is what you get, where they'll magnetize stuff, right? There's more of an investment at that point, but like it just makes sense. Also, oh my god, Games Workshop, please, if you're going to allow me to put like two like, was it Wraith cannons on a Wraith Lord, please at least give me 2 Wraith cannons in the kit. Giving me 1 is stupid. I don't remember what it was the Wraith cannon specifically, but like rules is written, you can just bring 2. They only give you 1 in the box. What an absolute just. Oh, I hate that.
I think the lack of movement actually adds to their personality. Like, firstly, if they moved, then the whole aspect of painting is kind of lost. Painting a mini has to be static because then you can highlight it a certain way, do zenithal highlights, object source lighting, and get the recesses shaded, all that other kind of jazz. But the movement is like a kid is playing toy soldiers and making vroom vroom stomp stomp sounds as they go around. Maximus, for example, is all full of himself, you know, the light-footed character. So he just bounces around as he moves. Zax is on a rocket, so he just lifts off and comes back down. Gardener is a big chunky plant bot, so he stomps around with big lungering footsteps. Beatrice is thick and heavy. Hidden Run's got the zoomies. Motherfucking Dome will just jump and slam, and I could go on and on.
It's animation, but from a different point of view, right? Because it's not that you're animating a slow, hulking walk animation, right? Like a walk cycle. It's not that you're having to animate maybe a character moving at 1.5 times speed, right? It's that the bases themselves are translating to movement, whether that's a giant heavy hop, whether that's, you know, whimsically, you know, shifting around, whether that's, you know, lugging through, you know, different movement, right? Like, it's movement from a different point of view, and I like it. I like the artistic vision here.
Characters not being animated actually sells their character even more just from how they move and react on the battlefield. Like, I hope, I pray even, that you can understand why I have been having so much fun with this game. You know, me, the Warhammer guy and everything like that. It's literally almost everything I could have wanted for a game like this. Getting good matches is such a brilliant time. The game itself is fun, and there's so much to think about. Being reactive and proactive, painting up your own special army, making it your own. It really has all the hallmarks of one of the best strategy games on Steam, and I say that with full confidence. So, what happened? Why is the player count so low at the moment?
This is what I'm trying to figure out. I've had to go through. I'm currently on Steam community right now, and these are like from like 2022. I guess there was something with the monetization. I guess initially it was going to be a free to play with a potential loot box model, and then they changed it. I'm skimming, so I'm not getting the full details. And I guess they changed it to like being $30. I don't know. Like, this is a strange one. Yeah, I guess you can play offline too, which is actually really cool. Like, I wonder if this works on the Steam Deck or not. This is really interesting because like it has a lot of bones to it. Like this, looking at this, at least at the presentation, right? And sure, it could be an effect of like when someone gets like Arma 3 footage and it's like, wow, this engine looks really stable. And it's like, no, you don't understand, Kip. That's the bits that do look stable. That's Arma. It's the Arma engine. It could just be, you know, cherry pick screenshots. I don't think it is personally. I don't think Bricky is that kind of person in terms of what videos of his I've seen and his integrity. So taking it at face value, that's how the game looks. I mean, the presentation looks clean, the animations look smooth, the sound mixed and mastered beautifully, audio, you know, OST is great. I mean, like, it looks competent. It feels like, you know, what you see is what you get. Units do 1 more damage. Units do one less damage, right? Feels very plug and play and modular. Like, this functions literally better than games that come out literally in 2025 and launch, and they're just like riddled with bugs, right? And I'm sure this game had its fair share of bugs. I'm sure there were patch notes and stuff like that. I mean, this is competent. This has good bones, and this has a good presentation. So I'm ready for what actually happened.
Honestly, I think it's marketing. You know, we talked in my AAA video about the amount of money, millions and millions of dollars that go towards the marketing budget. Moonbreaker, despite being done by Unknown Worlds, despite being written by Brandon Sanderson, and despite being a tabletop gamer's wet dream, has barely seen any press. I know this because they hired me. Not for this video. No, this video already had a sponsor. This video isn't sponsored by Moonbreaker. And I have to say that legally, right?
Yes.
Like if it was and I didn't tell you, I would be breaking the law and the
Yes.
FCC would be on my ass. No.
Except I guess if you're Logal Paul, making sure to use the L instead of the N, because it's lawyers, right? You know, their legal correspondence is Logal Paul. Unless you're someone like Logal Paul who has, like, you know, certain obligations. I guess, I don't know. I guess he was affiliated with Cryptizzy, right? I guess my big bone is with other YouTubers, creators, streamers, influencers who like would push certain cryptocurrency, but then like they wouldn't say that they were actually like sponsored or on payroll of those same things, like they were directly benefiting from it. This is what speaks to Bricky's integrity to me, where we are so used to people just being, I would argue, shady and underhanded, right? That this is a rarity. So, and that's the thing. I've heard a lot of like people criticize that Bricky, you know, brought the normies into Warhammer, and Bricky. I have a problem with Bricky for this reason. I think it's okay to have your criticisms. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying you're not allowed to have your criticisms, right? I think that pinning certain things on him is a little disingenuous. And if we look at him as he presents as a creator, as he presents, right? Like, this right here, as I'm seeing, speaks to his integrity. The fact that because honestly, he could take this entire bit right out of the video for all intents and purposes, right? He doesn't have to talk about them hiring him, right? Like, and obviously he could make allusion to them being affiliated with them if he's not affiliated, or saying he's not affiliated when he is actually affiliated, right? Like, there's legal disclosures there, but like he didn't have to say this, right? He didn't have to go on this explanation. He could have just focused on the characters and the gameplay and stuff, right? So I appreciate the integrity here, and I appreciate that like he's willing to work through the thing.
I was actually given a sponsorship for Moonbreaker many months ago. 8 streams, 2 hours minimum. And as you can tell, it's got its grips in me, claws sunk deep. It was a total blast, but it didn't appear to pay off in numbers. And I think this was twofold. One, I mean, my Twitch stream is a fine size. It's got good numbers, but it's not insane. This is the kind of game that would have been better suited to some of the much larger streamers who have taken interest in this kind of game. But secondly, when I streamed it, this game was massively different. There was no objective mode. It was only kill the enemy captain. That was the whole point. So it created kind of these turtle builds or arm race builds, and the games went on for way too long. Plus, there wasn't quite enough in terms of captains and crew. Now, the game has been hugely overhauled. 5 captains, not 3. Tons of new crew. The new objective game mode making it significantly more balanced and giving all units a place. They redid how Cinder worked, how crew deployment worked. They rebalanced a ton of units. And for God's sakes, by the time this video is out, they're doing it again. Who knows what new things could be added even by the time I finish this script. I say that knowing full well what's going to be added. A few videos ago, I made my what even is AAA gaming video, right? Kind of a rant, it's all right. I mentioned Moonbreaker in that video. And then I get an email, CEO of Unknown Worlds.
So I've talked about this. I've had, I think it's because I do TF2 reactions. I had a couple emails. One of them I think was a CSGO thing wanting to sponsor me. Which, as I said, I'm not going to take a sponsorship because, like, I would feel disingenuous putting a sponsored bit on a reaction, right? It's literally not my content. As much as we can reasonably argue that I double and triple the length of videos regularly, it is still not my content, right? It is still not, I'm still a mere derivative, right? That's how that works. I also get a lot of people, like literally have friend requests via Steam right now that I have to look through. And I guarantee if I look at them, it's going to be like just TF2 or CSGO. And I've had people message me because I thought they were from like the Discord server. And they'll just be like, hey, so do you want to like, I'll give you like keys. I'll trade you like TF2 keys to like upvote my thing on the workshop. And I'm like, no, go away. I will not. If I like your thing, sure. If I genuinely like it and I agree with it, and especially if it like actually adheres to team recognition, which is a big issue with things that get greenlit on the workshop, obfuscating team recognition, especially with Warpaints. But like, I don't know, just it's interesting to see both sides of this, right? Because like because especially at like the smaller size that I'm at, right? Mostly it's just, you know, hey, do you want to, you know, promote our store and stuff like that. It's really cool to see that he mentions a thing and then like, you know, he's getting contacted for a business opportunity. That's actually really cool.
And design director of Moonbreaker, Mr. Charlie Moon, sent me an email and said, hey, thanks for the shout out. I love to talk about the game more with you. And I took him up on it. We just chatted for a couple hours, just about the game, where it's going, what the plan was. I asked some hard questions about player count, about what the plan is, about here, there, and everywhere. I apologized for not bringing enough people into the game with my streams, despite, you know, still already being paid for it. The guy was a CEO for Subnautica as well, you know, design director of the game. For the last 5 years, they've been working on this game specifically, Moonbreaker. The excitement in his voice in the discussions were palpable, not just for what it is now, but for what it's becoming. He showed me the experimental branch changes, removal of summoning sickness, and new deployment strategies, how you place your units down, a new tug-of-war victory point system where you fight your opponent for points, not just reach 10, new captain ideas, new crew ideas, and even something months out, roster perks, special perks that you can get depending on what captain you run and how many of a certain faction you carry. And like,
I feel like that should have been very much like base, right? Because that's the thing is like you have that modularity, but you have no like unifying trait, right? Like, why would you just not pick like, you know, the 8 best units in the game, right? Why would you just not default to that? Oh, but if you now have a roster bonus or a faction bonus, suddenly you get, you know, certain perks, right? I mean, that actually kind of surprised me that wasn't base, but I mean, I like that it eventually got there.
I don't even think I've discussed painting enough. Like, I don't think you realize how good this system is. It's so addictive. There are people who don't play, you know, tabletop board games. They just build and paint minis because they love the act of doing so. I thoroughly believe that if you don't enjoy the gameplay of Moonbreaker, you can still sink ungodly hours into the painting system. Way back when I was contracted to stream the game, they were 2-hour streams each time. Sometimes half of that stream, a full hour, was just me painting my unit. I think one of the streams I only painted, but then I would use those units to beat on fools. I cannot express this enough. There is no facet of this game I dislike. Maybe the options menu. It's a bit low on graphical options and stuff, but everything else I have described has been phenomenal. The gameplay is deep and rewarding. It's tactical and varied. The graphics are bright and colorful with characters voiced by top-tier unionized voice talent. The soundtrack is phenomenal and all,
which is very important, especially nowadays, especially when you have like companies trying to do a one-time payment to like own people's images, likeness, and voice, right? Very much a good point to bring up.
Of this whole package is technically still early access. This puts other early access projects to shame. No lag, not one crash. It feels feature complete. As far as I'm concerned, this is a YouTuber's dream. You know, I had the streams way back when, but I just mentioned this game in a video, and I got head honcho Charlie Dr. Moon contact me to talk about the game, and we just shot the shit. He was really nice, and he seemed like he had such a level of passion for the game, and I could tell that like the player count and stuff was really waning on him. All the things I just said, roster perks, all that fancy stuff, that's not really public knowledge. He showed it to me because he was excited, and I was like, am I allowed to say this? And he said, one sec, I have to ask. But at the end of the
right, yeah, and that's where NDAs was coming to, and that's the thing, right, is like, if I were to ever go into a sponsorship opportunity where I sneak peek at a game or something like that, I mean, that's one of the biggest things is like, yo, is this under an NDA? I don't mind being under an NDA. I need to make sure that everything is above board, right? So when people ask me, hey, do you want to promote my TF2 store? Do you want to put a sponsorship link here? It's like, I don't think you understand with me how much paperwork and how much discussion goes into that. That's not a decision I make willy-nilly, right? That is something that, all we need to make sure gets discussed.
The day there's going to be a question posed by the end of this video. You're going to ask, should I buy Moonbreaker? Let's say you loved what you saw, but you're worried about the player count and longevity, because low player count is a big fear for a lot of people. To that I say this, if Moonbreaker has a player count of even a few hundred, that's enough. This isn't a 6v6 multiplayer shooter with lots of regions and skill levels. This is a one-on-one turn-based strategy PvP game. You only need 2 players for a game. Ping doesn't matter. It's turn-based, so location isn't a worry. The player count needed for this game to feel like it's totally dead is substantially lower than almost every other game. What this game truly needs is just confidence. It's $30, and I think it's extremely worth the price.
So that's the thing I was looking at, was he hadn't mentioned the price up until now, and that seemed like it was a big one. That seemed like a big deterrence for a lot of people, is the free-to-play, whatever their loot box model was.
Further prove my enjoyment of this game, I plan on streaming it on this YouTube channel for 3 streams for a few days after this video goes live, just to make it even more apparent. Whew, rounding this out, when I was speaking with Mr. Breaker, we discussed Subnautica's propelled success. We were reminded of Jacksepticeye, who played the game and really skyrocketed into popularity, pushing not only his own YouTube channel to bigger heights, but the game as well. I'm not Jacksepticeye. More come! I don't think I have the reach to do anything similar. But in this world, with what AAA gaming has become, and all the things I ranted about in that previous video, this is an early access game that has more character than $70 games, is better optimized than $70 games, treats its player base better than $70 games, is less than half the price, and made by 30 people in a niche that can genuinely explode with the right push. And that right there should be celebrated. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope I got it through to all of you that I really like this game. This is not a sponsored thing for that. This is not any of that stuff. I am genuine with the fact that I adore this title. I like the people who are making it. I like the conversations I had with the CEO. And at the end of the day, if this really blows up and does extremely well, I could totally see Games Workshop contracting them for some kind of DLC expansion or whatever that's Warhammer related.
I honestly disagree. So here, and I thought about this earlier. Why would Games Workshop not want to do something like this, right? And they kind of have done things with, some of their older games and stuff. So especially with modern Games Workshop business, like they're the way they want to do business. And this is Bricky from 2 years ago, approximately, as of reacting to this. So this is before a lot of the recent retcons with Terminus Decree, whatever, Femstones. I'm with Bricky on that one. As I understand it, Bricky was said, lore drop, whatever. The way they did it could have been better, as I understand it. Personally, that's kind of where I sit, but the Terminus Decree feels like it kind of shafts the Grey Knights more than it adds to them. And Games Workshop just overall just seeming like they're trying to crater their entire franchise. Especially when you go into 10th and it feels like things are just becoming way too homogenized, with Psychic Phase being, sucked into Shoot Phase, right? But thinking about why they wouldn't do that, if you could, say, pay $70, let's say you pay premium, right? $70 AAA premium, and you could play like 40K at home, how do they sell physical product? Well, yeah, you would still have the people who are passionate about it, who will still, have entire tables of, 40K figurines that they've painted, and, they'll do TikToks about, how many, Chaos Space Marines they own and stuff like that, right? But, or people who will still just, paint, maybe they'll paint, the Brass Scorpion of Khorne, right? And, do the whole stained glass thing. It's very time-consuming, right? Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be that audience, but Is that necessary? But like we saw from Space Marine 2, right? How many people got into that? See, here's the thing. I see Bricky blamed for quote unquote normalizing Warhammer for a lot of people. I hear none of that same criticism with Space Marine 2 with you know, Titus, because he people hated I still have to play Space Marine 1 to understand why people really hate Leandros. As I understand it, Leandros actually followed the Codex Astartes. Titus didn't. But we saw people literally coming into, and I saw this coming into Games Workshop stores, like Warhammer stores, literally, hey, you have the Titus thing, and talking about Space Marines and stuff like that, right? Like, I don't know. It's such an interesting, like, way. And like, we know that the game did drive physical, but my worry is that, especially if you could say, I don't know, purchase into a digital ecosystem and just buy and just, you know, have whatever models, or even if they release DLC packs, like, oh, we're releasing the Custodes mega pack, right? And you have like your Venerable Land Tank, bunch of other stuff, right? Shield captains, you know, you can buy that for, I don't know, $30, right? Whatever they want to charge for it. Sure, people would buy it, but my worry is that eventually it would take away from their physical product, and that is something that they are holding a death grip on right now, especially, one, with the amount of people who do 3D print it, and two, with the amount of 40K fans who argue in favor of 3D printing, which I've already made my stance on pretty clear. Like, look, I don't care if you're at a kitchen table. I don't care if you're at a local game shop and it's a casual game. If we're playing in a competitive event, if we're playing in a tournament, everyone's stuff better be bought. Nobody should be proxying or 3D printing anything at that point, right? It also runs into an issue where, you know, person will 3D print a Wraith Knight, even if they take the runners and, you know, melt it down. And it's like, well, but your Wraith Knight doesn't have 2 heavy Wraith cannons on it. You know, it's WYSIWYG. And it's like, if I ever hear a 3D printed person ever talk about WYSIWYG, I will just scoop that game. It's a mixed bag. The Games Workshop, I don't see doing this personally, especially with their continued crusade against the fan base, as well as just kind of deconstructing and destroying their own universe.
And it would be arguably one of the best Warhammer tabletop games ever made. I genuinely believe that.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and leave the Steam link for the game in the description. Check it out. Give it a look. I'll be streaming it on this channel anyway. You can watch me do that regardless. Thank you so much for watching. We're covering another strategy game next. A different kind, auto battler kind of game, but it'll be a good one. Bye-bye.
Come on. Obviously, you're a skater.
Honestly, I thoroughly enjoyed it though. I don't understand it. I mean, maybe it's the concept of like the cars I was talking about. And I've talked about it in a few reactions, right? Why do people tend to just play games that piss them off and that, you know, just frustrate them versus playing games that, you know, are actually good and actually you know, make them feel things, right? And you know, it's my buddy likened it to, it's like owning cars and like being good enough and trying to like so the analogy came down to, you own like a Ferrari and then you own like a beat up piece of crap truck, right? And like, you look at the Ferrari, you like the Ferrari, you pat the Ferrari, okay, this is fine, right? But then you spend, even though you have the Ferrari, you spend most of your time fixing that truck, right? Even, you know, you have to fix the brake lines, you have to, you know, alternator's not doing things it needs to, it suddenly doesn't turn over, why are there more bolts here than I started with, right? Things like that. And it's like, I liken that to why people will say they love Deep Rock Galactic, or like they'll love certain games, but they never actually play the games. And instead they'll play things that just piss them off and frustrate them. So it's an interesting phenomenon. And I almost wonder if this kind of goes into that a little bit, because this looks quality. I can agree with the marketing standpoint, especially if it was ill-received at first as an early access kind of thing. With loot boxes potentially, if you know, Steam community is to be believed, I could see that playing a big factor in that. I could also see it a factor of, wow, this game is competent and this game is actually good. I'm gonna go play this game that pisses me off because you have the Ferrari, you like the Ferrari, you know, you like patting the Ferrari and saying you have the thing and you know it works, but you really want to fix that truck. So I don't know. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Let me know if you've played it. I'm very curious what the game ended up becoming. Early game, especially if there's only Captain, Turtle, Strat, Nuke, kind of makes a lot of sense if I'm being completely honest. Seems like the reasonable way a metagame would form. So it's really cool that they ended up doing this. I'm curious if they still update it today. Let me know if you know more about it. Thank you, Evan, for watching. I really do appreciate it, spending this hour with me. And I'll see you in the next one.